Shalom. So this is Ecclesiasticus chapter 2 and verse 1. It says, "My son, if thou come to serve the Lord, prepare thy soul for temptation." Right? Now, what happens with the Bible is sometimes it says son or men, but it goes a broad way. Alright? Now, I'm using this precept to push a certain point. Right now, what happens is when a man and a woman meet, sometimes we feel uncomfortable asking uncomfortable questions, even though they are very necessary. It's very important to ask so you can get a direct answer, right? Because sometimes the way people look at things, the way people interpret things, it makes it difficult when it comes to communication. And sometimes you'll find that the honesty is not really there because not because the person is directly or intentionally lying to you, but because they're lying to themselves with by the stories, right? Now, in my relationship, you know, it's her first time being with an Hebrew, right? It's the first time knowing about Hebrew, right? So, and she has her experiences before me, right? So in the beginning, no, because how it's gonna be is like it's too good to be true type of thing, right? So what happens is that in the early stages she was getting a lot of dreams about me and other women and so forth, and I had to let her know that, okay, don't dwell upon that, that's a dream. Or if it's with a person who I used to be with or whatever, then I'll let her know what the status is and so forth. So there's always transparency. I don't leave her hanging to see, okay, wonder if the dream is real or it has some truth to it, or if it's just coming from her own thoughts, because dreams can come from your own subconscious thoughts, right? Now, after getting a few dreams of me with other women, she had a dream. She had a dream, and she was a bit reluctant to really ask about it, but she just mentioned what the dream was. And I said, go ahead and ask me the question. However, she says that she would not she knew that I was not into that because she had a dream about me and other men, right? And I said, ask the question. It's important for you to ask, because what happened is that we cannot turn a blind eye to it. We cannot pretend as if these things do not happen. Sometimes a woman might meet a man and he looks a certain way, and you never ask questions. You just hold on to, oh no, he's not that type of person. But you don't know, because look at relationships today. A lot of these things are happening, a lot of these things are coming out. And I'm not talking about just heathenistic people. I'm talking about people who follow certain religion that has moral principles too, but they still do things, right? They still do all different types of things. So I told her, ask me. And what I had to do, clear for her as well, is that asking your man if he's a gay is not the real question. Because, like I said, people tell themselves a lot of stories and believe the stories. So if a man has been with another man, he might not classify it as being gay, right? So I told her, you have to ask me if I've ever been with a man, right? And I know she was uncomfortable because probably she's never experienced that, where she had to ask, or even if you have the thought and to ask a man, you know how uncomfortable and how a man can react to it. I'm not a reactive person, right? So I told her it's important for you to know for sure. So that means if anything that was supposed to happen at the end of the day, you is not your assumption that, oh, I've never been with a man, right? And like I said, this is very important for to be out there, because a lot of women want to ask and they're very uncomfortable. And then because of how their men are, makes it even more hard. It makes it harder for them to ask, because they might fear the reaction, how the man might react it, even though it can be true, right? But at the end of the day, for your sakes, women, for your sake, it's important to ask these questions. Ask, have you ever been with a man before, or any form, anything like that? It's important for you to ask. And it's the same thing for men. It's important for you to ask, if these women, ask them if they've ever had any form of relationship or sexual encounter with other women, right? Because sometimes they might even just have a few experiences, not a lot, but what happens here, it's a strong attachment, and it makes it even hard, right? And then if you don't like that type of thing, then what happens is, rather than trying to fight it here, they try to be discreet with it. So you're in a relationship with your woman, and she's stronger towards her affection, the affection with another woman than with you. And sometimes you don't really understand why the relationship is going a certain way. It's because something is happening here. It's not the physicality with her and the other woman, it's what's happening here. There's a battle, because she's trying to live something that is not true, but the actions will say that's the fault. You can pretend, you can do this, but it's gonna come out at some point, right? So it's very important. Yes, there will be temptations. You meet a person, you meet a good person, it's gonna be hard sometimes to really believe what you're seeing, especially if you're coming from bad, where you have a bad history of relationships, right? So it's important. And in the communication, yes, that is also very important, to deal with uncomfortable questions, because this is what will help with the trust. It will strengthen the trust, right? Because if you cannot ask your partner questions because of how they might feel about the question, rather than dealing with the actuality of the question, that's going to be problematic. And this is also gonna lead you outside of your relationship, because if you really have things on your in your heart to ask, and you cannot ask it because of how the person might react, then that's going to lead you outside. If you're not strong enough, it's going to lead you to want to confide in other people, and in most cases it's usually with the opposite sex, and you know what happens after that. Doesn't matter if you label it platonic or not. Doesn't matter what label. You already opened the door for the adversary. And he likes to manipulate egos. And it always starts with a narrative. It always starts with a story, justifying what you're about to do. Right? So it's important. Communication is very important. Communicating how you feel about something, and about what the actual thing is. Right? Shalom.